Hello BookTube, I'm here today to talk about Atonement by Ian McEwan. I did not enjoy this book. I know that it's a classic and that everyone has read it, or mostly everyone, but I put off reading it because Conrad, who used to be From the Deckled Edge and Just a Dust Jacket, and who now is 7 Days at Sea, he said that this book is terrible and don't waste your time on it, but I felt a little bit left out of the loop, so I felt like I had to try reading it, and I won't say it's totally worthless. Anyways, so the summary is, on a summer day in 1935, 13-year-old Bryony Tallis witnesses a moment's flirtation between her older sister, Cecilia, and Robbie Turner, the son of a servant. But Bryony's incomplete grasp of adult motives and her precocious imagination bring about a crime that will change all of their lives. A crime whose repercussions Atonement follows through the chaos and carnage of World War II and into the close of the 20th century. So one of the problems that I had with this book is there's a lot of head hopping. So like one chapter will be in one character's third-person perspective, and then so like something will happen, and character A will be describing it, and then and something will happen, like the door closed with a bang, but then we go to chapter 2 and character B goes back to describing the day before before these events happen. So it's a very roundabout, drawn out way of describing things, and granted, this book does read a bit like a Victorian novel. It's very flowery, and sometimes it takes itself a little bit too seriously, but I did enjoy the style of writing. I would say that would be the thing that saved it for me. One thing though is that McEwan is definitely able to make a mountain out of a molehill. He'll sometimes go on for pages and pages with this eloquent, artistic prose, and you're like, all that happened was Cecilia opened a window. That's literally all that happened, and it took you 5 pages to describe that, or things like that, you know, where it's a little bit drawn out. But what I found most, disconcerting about the whole thing is it's very, it's very lackadaisical approach to rape, and you would say, but this is all about a man who's falsely accused about being a rapist. And here's my problem with it. Like, and it's not just my inner nihilist who's saying, so what, why do I care? It's about this man who is wrongly accused of being a rapist, and he goes to prison. The whole book felt disjointed to me. It's broken up into separate parts, and the first part is about the romance between Robbie and Cecilia, and then the second part is about when Robbie is away at the war because he joined the infantry to get out of prison, and the third part is about Bryony's life as a nurse, and so it's just very disjointed. They don't have a lot in common, and also, in addition to that, there's so many different people's perspectives, so many different heads that we're hopping. We're hopping from Emily, the mother, to Robbie, to Cecilia. We're just jumping back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it's very infuriating sometimes. But even more than that, the thing that I found most frustrating is it's not about the character. So one character does get raped, and it's not whether or not the rape happened, it's who did it. And so Bryony thinks that Robbie did it, but she is mistaken. But the thing is, though, is that, and it's all about how imprisoned, like how wrongfully imprisoned Robbie is, and about how him and Cecilia are star-crossed lovers who can't be together, and how Cecilia will abandon her family. And honestly, I didn't feel, one, that Cecilia and Robbie ever loved each other enough to really justify that amount of passion that they had for each other, because they're literally together for like 20 minutes, and I do mean literally in the actual literal sense. Like they were childhood friends, and they grown ambivalent for each other, and then they briefly hated each other, and then they got together for 20 minutes, and then Cecilia thought Robbie was saw Robbie being accused of being a rapist, and then she's like, I will love you forever, and she writes him for years in prison and promises to be his forever. Like, it seems like a little bit of an overreaction. So we're supposed to believe that these two are star-crossed lovers, even though we never really see the attraction between them, or we never really feel any any compulsion for them to be together, and you don't really root for them to be together because there's no reason for them to be together. And even when they were together, which was again for 20 minutes, like, it was just a momentary bliss. It was a lustful kind of thing. So it doesn't really make sense that Cecilia would betray her family, even if she does like him genuinely, that she would betray her family and turn her back on her whole life and wait for him while he's in prison. No, she can't love him that much. And especially too, like, and also the thing is, so a rape does actually happen, but a man gets wrongly accused of it. But it's not about the girl who gets raped. It's about the man who's wrongly accused, and that also annoyed me. It's about the man who's wrongly accused and his sweetheart and how they can't be together anymore, and that felt inappropriate to me. I mean, obviously, like, Robbie has suffered, and but at the same time, to focus solely on his suffering while completely ignoring the suffering of the victim felt it felt very cinematic, honestly. Like, like, I honestly feel like this book came about when McKeown just had this idea of, like, little girl thinks her little sister's being raped and accuses her boyfriend of raping her, and then just ran with that idea. Because it all feels contrived around happening about this one single incident, and, like, everything is revolving around that, and they really have nothing else to string together a book, and there's no other, like, connection between the characters, and there's no other, like, sense of belonging. So, because of that, I felt like, I don't know, again, the prose is good. I gave it 2 stars because, like, I feel like if this had even been written, if this had been, like, chopped up into individual chapters and the chapters had been, like, short stories, it would have been wonderful. Because he's brilliant at writing, like, making mountains out of molehills and making, like, small moments really seem momentous in everyday life, but the events didn't flow together. They didn't have there wasn't any cohesion, and I felt it was really disrespectful to completely ignore, to completely use the victim's suffering for a plot point, and again, I just felt it was very disingenuous as well, and, like, it was a very soap opera type of, it was a very, like, soap opera type of rape. It wasn't realistic, and for all that this book wanted to be, like, I think it did want to be realistic because it was just frustrating. Honestly, I don't know why it's as famous as it is. I think, honestly, if this had been written by a woman, I might have felt a little betrayed by her depiction of rape, and I think it would have been more subject to criticism. But the love story, which is supposed to be pulling you throughout this whole thing, doesn't make sense. The plot is kind of offensive, and honestly, all the characters are pretty melodramatic, and it strings together a series of events that are really unconnected and shouldn't be and shouldn't form its own novel. So overall, I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I honestly couldn't even finish it. I got like 300 pages in, and then I was just like, no, I wasted too much time. You can tell me if it suddenly gets miraculously better in the last 50 pages out of 350, but I doubt it. Yeah, I should have taken Conrad's advice and not read it, but I was getting curious, and because everyone was mentioning it, and I felt like I felt like everyone's part of some secret party that I wasn't part of, so I tried to read it, and it was terrible. This review does have spoilers, but, I mean, if you watch this and you got to the end, you probably don't care. Alright, thanks for watching. See you next time. Doi! Just wanted to add, something that I forgot to say originally, is that I think the plot of a person wrongfully convicted of rape could be interesting if it had been done right, and you have to do it so well. I think you would have to really commit to that plot. I think, like, if there had been some ambiguity as to who the rapist had been, and in, like, the hype and in the sort of, like, witches hunt to narrow it down, they picked the wrong person, that could be interesting, but McKeown didn't focus on that plot. He kind of wanted, like, a romance, and he kind of wanted a World War II novel, and he kind of wanted, like, he kind of wanted a lot of different things, so he, like, instead of committing to each one of them, he just did all of them, sort of half-heartedly, and so that's why I feel that's why I felt cheated, because if you're going to deal with something with this amount of weight, you have to give it the gravity that it deserves, and you have to really commit to it. And I feel like he didn't do that. He just kind of half-heartedly thought, let's have this little girl accuse her sister's boyfriend of being a rapist, and just ran with it. And so I think, like, it was very, and it can be done well. Again, but you really have to commit to it, and you really have to commit to portraying both the victim of the rape and the victim of the false accusation, and where the real rapist is, and see, like, the points of healing and the points of depression and of confusion and of needing to find a solution for their anger and struggling to handle, like, what happened to them, and trying to find a source of their suffering. I think that would be really fascinating, but he didn't do that. So, in the end, I was just left confused. Anyways, I thought I'd add that on at the end, because I thought I should say that, because it could be compelling if he had done it right.